Narp, come watch, it's time, set the clock. Hitting like Ray off the block. Feel like MJ with the rock. Home run like Sammy Sosa. 2 clutch last period. Get ready, set, go. This a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the NARP Experiment. Today, we're coming at you with some Bradley Beal trade options. We've seen him pretty upset the past couple of days. Nate, what's your take on the situation going on in Washington?
I mean, this is long overdue if you ask me. Bradley Beal's just being a good guy, good teammate, good franchise player, and trying to hold on as long as he can. But at this point,
he signed a 2-year extension. What was it, last summer or 2 summers ago?
Yeah,
might have been season, but I know he signed a 2-year extension. So
right,
he gave them a chance. It's not like just.
Yeah, no, he's given them chances to try and make things work. Of course, not having a healthy John Wall didn't help the case, and he flipped that into Russell Westbrook, who unfortunately is a negative asset at this point.
Is now worse than healthy John Wall.
No.
Imagine that.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's just like they're putting the wrong people around Bradley Beal, and at this point, I think it's time for him to look for a change, and I don't think it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad for him to go ahead and do that.
That Westbrook contract is looking so bad right now because he's making 40. He's making $40 million a year for 3 years.
41.3 to be exact, and then it goes up.
What kind of talent are they supposed to add around the roster with Bradley Beal's max of 30 plus? Starting next year, it'll be 34, and then 36, 37 for his player option.
Yep,
and
34 then 37 for his player.
I'm not positive what Russ is, but I know it's going to be around that 41, 42. So how are you supposed to add talent around that roster?
Russ's will be 41. Right. Russ's, I just want to say, Russ's will be 41, 44, and then a player op of 47. That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, if they want to get off that, it's sounding like they got to attach some picks, especially because of how poorly he's played this year. So we're here to save the day, Brad. No worries. We're getting you out of Washington.
Free this man.
We're freeing you. You need to be saved because clearly they can't put a team around you. And honestly, it's just a run of bad luck because years ago, before Wall got hurt, they started to look a little better than they were. They actually competed at the playoffs that one year. So yeah, well.
I mean, he's leading the league in scoring right now. I mean, he deserves to be playing some winning basketball. We saw the other night in his game against his former teammate John Wall having just his head in his hands after the game. He just was clearly just burnt out and stressed out. And I think he's done. It's similar to how Harden kind of responded after his post game without saying words, you know. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and give the people what they want. Let's give them our first trade.
Yeah. So just to preface this real quick, none of the trades we came up with or just ideas for these trades, none of them are for teams that are not going to win potentially because he wants to win right now. We're not just going to send him to
Charlotte or Detroit or Minnesota.
That's a little more accurate. Charlotte low key this year, but we're not sending him to any of those places. I don't think that he'll go to any of those places in real life. I'm pretty sure he's going to try to demand his way to a winning team. I don't know exactly who that'll be, and I don't think it'll be that vague whenever he does, but yeah, so all these teams they should be pretty solid. They should be very, very, very solid, if not one piece away after they get Beal. And it'll make sense for the team that'll be a piece away. But he is the final piece for most of these teams. So let's get into it. Same format as we did last time. We each came up with 4. We'll jump into the first one. This is one that I came up with. Fairly simple. And it's a Wizards-Sixers trade. It's a 1-for-1 Brad Beal for Ben Simmons. The now I tried everything I could to somehow form a deal around Tobias Harris for Brad Beal instead of Ben, because the Sixers don't really have any other contracts on their roster that they could just throw away to the Wizards to get Beal, because the money won't match. So they have to give up one of their bigger bigger salary guys, and that means Ben, Joel, or Toby. And unless they were going to do like Danny Green, Mike Scott, and like who knows, Dwight Howard, someone else. Unless they're going to do something like that and just launch every pick they had off the Bucks, and the Wizards were just going to be like, sure, we'll take the picks. Then there's not really a way for the Sixers to make this trade happen.
I probably would ask for Tyrese Maxey, if anything, if you were to add some more players.
There's somewhat promising player. Yeah, he'd probably
have to be in that deal. You know what I mean? If you were just to add on instead of giving Ben Simmons just equally, I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to find a way to do salary filler with some young talent, you would definitely throw Maxey in there. You have to. Yeah, I mean, if you're Washington, you better ask for that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. The reason this is just a 1-for-1, I can't picture a world where the Wizards call the Sixers and they want Simmons and they can get anything more, because Simmons is on a 5-year deal right now and Brad's only on a 3, and it's really a 2+1. So I don't think Bradley Beal on a 2+1, unless the Sixers are absolutely desperate to blow it up. And I don't think they're that desperate, because they didn't beat the Nets offer, and they probably could have, because Ben Simmons is more promising than any of the young guys that were in that deal. Right. No offense to Karras, or Jared Allen, but who gets picks? I don't think anyone gets picks. I think if anything, it would have to just be the Sixers getting a pick with Bradley Beal, because they're only getting 2+1, and they'd have to sign him to that really big extension after that 35% max, and the Wizards are getting a 5-year contract player who's probably a top 25 player in the league.
Oh, he's an all-NBA player.
Oh, he's even better than that. He's having a little bit of a down year, I guess, statistically. But
he still needs to find his shooting touch. I think that's just still his only overarching problem, is he can't shoot the ball. He's not confident to shoot the ball, but
the season's just nuts. And I mean, from what I've seen, the Sixers look really good. And I feel like Ben is running that offense very well. It's just different. So he's got to ease himself into it. It's going to take some time to really get going, especially when he just has to – it looks like he's changing how he's playing a lot more. He's being a lot more of a – he's dishing the ball around a lot more than he has in the past. And he can, because he has better players around him. It's a better team build.
Right.
And so I think, obviously, the Sixers would do this if they just wanted to get Beal and they wanted to score, or they just don't like the fit anymore, whatever. I don't think they should. I like Ben, and I like him on the Sixers too.
Yeah, I like Ben a lot because of his age too.
Yeah. And he fits with Embiid. But I mean, I don't think it happens. I don't think this can happen. I don't think the Sixers can realistically go get Beal unless they really are low on Ben. And also, just because I don't think Harris, I don't really think you can get Tobias Harris, because the Wizards, why would they want to take on Tobias Harris contract?
They wouldn't want to take on Tobias Harris. Yeah, no. You would, if you want Bradley Beal, who's an All-NBA player, you better be getting just about an All-NBA talent back, and that's what Ben Simmons is. You just like you said, if you're a franchise like the Wizards, at this point, you should be looking towards the rebuild and just how to accumulate young talent. And Ben Simmons is only 24 years old. You get him under control for 5 years. I mean, he's an all-star, all-NBA talent. Like, once again, work on the jumper, my friend. That's it. Like, you have all the other tools to be. You have all the other tools. You have all the other tools to be a literal 10-time all-star. Like, you are literally there already. You just got to find other ways to score and put the ball in the basket. But his game is perfectly fine and suited. So if you're the Wizards and you're trading Bradley Beal and Ben Simmons is the player out there amongst a bunch of other teams' offers with players, and he's the best talent out there. I feel like you just have to do it. I don't know. Like, that's just me.
I do too. I'm really high on Ben also. I would take Ben before I took picks because you get the picks hoping you can get a Ben getting it. So also
might as
just
well
one
take,
last
yeah, you
note
might as well take the proven all-star, right?
on it is imagine Russ and Ben in Washington playing together.
I don't know.
That would be such a terrible
Oh,
offense.
it would
Oh
be.
my
Oh, that would be
I
Brick
mean,
City,
they're so short on bigs. Ben might as well just throw on number 55 and go out there and start banging with the bigs down low.
right?
So,
I mean,
yeah,
they got Robin Lopez out there right now at the moment.
right? And Alex Len, who just got cut. So
Oh God.
this is probably not that realistic. This would all just bank on the Sixers are desperate and don't like the Ben fit. But I mean, they just beat the Lakers, so I think
they're the
Ben
top
Fit's
team in the
doing
East. They're doing something
it's
right.
working.
They're
It's
12
working,
and 6. So
shouldn't blow it up now. And I wouldn't do it for a two, maybe 3 years, especially when you have 5 of Ben. Plus, there'll be better options down the line anyway.
right.
So let's move on from that one to one of the trades you came up with. And let's jump into the Celtics deal that you came up with.
Yeah, number 2 and number 1 teams in the East. It's pretty expansive. You want to go ahead and run down the players quick, and then I'll go ahead and explain.
Yeah, I'll read out the Washington players first. So you're sending Boston, Bradley Beal, Moritz Wagner, and Isak Bonga. So all these guys are going to Boston. Oh, man, imagine that 5-out offense with Wagner.
All right.
Tristan Thompson for the other side. Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Romeo Langford. You got a 23 second rounder from Dallas, Miami, or Houston. I don't remember if that's the best or the worst of those. You have their first rounder and Oklahoma City's second rounder for 21 for this year. And then you have their 2023 first rounder and their 25 first rounder. Those are all going to the Wizards.
Yeah. So
A lot of moving parts in this one.
a lot of moving parts. So let me
A lot
go
of
ahead.
picks, a lot of players.
Yeah. So this is where I'm getting at. How are you as a team able to trade for Bradley Beal without giving up Jaylen Brown? That's just what it comes down to.
That's if it's even possible.
Right, that's if it's even possible. So this is what the scenario I came up with in my head. You get Marcus Smart, awesome defender. You can plug out there in many positions, many roles. He's just kind of a glue guy who'll just make your team better. So that's the biggest piece in this outside of the picks. So if you don't give up, Jaylen Brown or even have to throw in Kemba Walker in the deal somehow, I figured as much. Don't send Kemba to DC. He'll be out there with Russ, and that just won't be clearly the greatest defensive fit at all. So we throw in Tristan Thompson. He's got that higher salary number. You give him a young center in Robert Williams who's still trying to show some promise, and Romeo Langford as well, a guy who's barely played some games now this far in his career. I think this is his 3rd season now he's playing. It's either 2nd or 3rd. I believe it's his 2nd. But either way, just still guys who haven't really got a chance to shine and show off their play. So that's why I threw in so many picks, because it's still like some unpromising raw talent out there. So you still got to throw some picks. So we've got 3 first, 2 seconds. Right. I'm just thinking about the haul that the Bucks gave up for Drew Holiday too. Like, you're just going to need to throw a haul out there, especially if a guy like Bradley Beal's talent who can legit score 30 points a night, and he'll just make your team that much better. And
You either need to send some expiring money or you need to just send a massive haul.
right, exactly. And then on the Celtics side, like, I was thinking, how do you replace giving up the 2 centers? You could throw out Mo Wagner, another stretch big. He's not a banging big, kind of like Tristan is or Robert Williams could aspire to be, but you throw him in the mix just to add some more players into the deals. and then Isaac Bonga, who
That helps their offense.
right,
That helps their offense a lot because
get a big to stretch the floor.
they can go 5 up. Yeah,
Right.
they have trouble shooting. They have trouble shooting massively right now in Boston. So
Right.
he would definitely help them stretch the floor. So I mean, that's sneaky. I mean, obviously you're not going to have Tristan Thompson. You signed him to come help, give you a veteran presence in the playoffs, but you do get Moritz Wagner, and he can spread the floor for you. So I mean, that'll definitely help the playoffs. So I do like that idea.
Yep. And then Bonga, lastly, that's just kind of to replace the guard depth that you gave up, even though you're not really playing Romeo Langford, as much. You still are looking to replace Marcus Smart's defensive prowess out there on the court. I mean, he's just one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. So, I mean, Isaac Bonga's a really good defender. He's a 6'8" point guard. So, I don't know. You might be able to throw him in the mix. He's played a lot of minutes this year for Washington. He seems to get better and more comfortable with the game as years have gone on. So you get him on a nice rookie scale contract in return. Possibly can play him in some key moments, maybe in the playoffs. So that's what I was thinking of when looking at this. How are you supposed to make this deal happen? Without Jaylen Brown being involved. And then when you look at the Boston side of things, that lineup, Kemba, Beal, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and you could throw out there Daniel Tice or Mo Wagner, doesn't matter. Like that's kind of scary offensively. You know what I mean? That's a lot of points. It's a crazy starting lineup.
Yeah. If you're trying to play against the Nets, you're trying to get past them, you definitely play some offense right there.
Right, score with the best of them.
And you know what? I didn't really notice it. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but like seeing this trade without Kemba, because ideally he'd be the player that if you had to get rid of one of your max guys, if you're Boston, he's the one you would want to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
But you probably can't get rid of him because Russ is on the Wizards. And
Right.
Russ is absolutely killing the Wizards. Like, it is so bad. I don't even know how to explain it.
No, it's bad. I mean,
He's playing so bad
3-11.
and making
They're
so
3-10.
much money. So not only are you not going to try to get like somebody like Kemba because the fit won't work because he's also a point guard who needs the ball in his hands. You can't even get a player like that because your roster isn't built with Russ. Like if you're getting rid of Beal, you're tanking.
Right.
Russ might be at this point. Russ might overtake Dwight Powell in my heart as tank commander to lead you into the next war. NBA. He can lose you every game you need to lose. The Pistons need to watch their backs.
Watch your mouth.
They need to watch their fronts.
Hey, at the end of the day, the Wizards are going to be.
slowing
At the end of the day, the
down.
Wizards are going to be worse than us. So I don't even want to hear it.
Dude, if they trade Beal, yes, they will be.
They already are right now without
What's
Beal,
it-
or with Beal, on the team. Our best player is Jeremy Grant, bro. I don't want to hear it.
It's so bad because you guys, Blake is so bad, and Russ is looking that bad too. It blows my
Jeremy
blows my
Grant.
mind.
Jeremy Grant, most
Yeah.
improved player of the year. Jeremy Grant, most improved player of the year. It doesn't matter.
I do. I mean, this team is horrible. There's no talent on it. You scroll through. There's really nobody good. Nobody's good at the sport of basketball on their team. Bertan's a spot-up shooter. They paid $15 million a year. How much did he get? $80 million last year.
Yeah.
5 years. That's a
5
good deal. But
years.
guess what? When you're tanking, you're gonna want to flip that for a pick because guess what? Bertans is not. He's not changing the needle. He's not moving the needle.
No.
He's a good player. He's a really good player. He's a specialist. But if you can get a first-round pick, that should be more valuable for the Wizards than
Having to
Bertans.
hold on to him for 4 or
What are
5
you gonna
more
do?
seasons.
You need to rebuild. So, yeah, I feel like this is a good deal. I feel like it's realistic. I feel like it gives them some. I feel like it gives the Wizards a couple of tank commanders. I like Smart, Steve. I don't think Williams is anything crazy, and Langford's gotten so little opportunity that we don't even know.
Right.
You're getting that round 2 pick from Oklahoma City this year, which should be decent, mid-30s, low 30s.
Right.
The only thing that's scary about it is the picks are early on. So you're getting a 21 to 23 to 25. And the Celtics, if they get Beal, those picks will not be – they won't be lottery picks.
Right.
I mean, even 25 won't be a lottery pick. It shouldn't be a lottery pick. So that scares me a little bit. Maybe if they could try to get like a 26, 27 in there, probably a 27.
Yep.
Maybe a 21 or a 22 maybe isn't worst case. Just because with Kemba's health issues, maybe they could somehow not finish as well as they predict, but they're still going to be a playoff team.
Right.
Like if you have three of the four of Brad, Kemba, Jalen, and Jason, even two of the four, and they're not really getting rid of any crazy role players. Obviously, Marcus Smart's great, but they'll fill up the roster with minimums.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. I was thinking they'll find somebody. They'll find somebody on the buyout market. They'll find someone somewhere else. You know what I mean? They'll find ways to not have to rely on some of those young guys to be in rotation. Like you don't have to rely on Naismith to play right away. You can continue to let him grow and figure it out because he's a great shooter. He has a chance to be like Buddy Hield type.
Honestly, if they get Beal, they probably do try to flip Kemba to someone else because it might not be immediate, but when Pritchard comes back, and I don't know how long he's out for exactly, but he looked so good for them at the beginning of the year that going forward, why not just play Pritchard? He's a high effort, great, good defensive player. Stick him out there with Beal, stick him out there with Brown, Tatum, and whoever you want to throw in at the 5. And that would also help them money-wise if they could do that because he's so cheap that it'd give them a couple million extra dollars.
Right, to just play with. I was actually thinking about when I was doing the trade. I was thinking about how to include Jeff Teague because I was like, I like Pritchard as the backup. So even if you don't flip Kemba, you can just roll with Pritchard as your backup instead of Teague at this point. Like I'd rather just roll with that. You're getting more bang for your buck, and he just looks like he's like very comfortable out there right now. I mean, he was a 4-year player, so rightfully so.
Yeah, I'd be terrified if the Celtics got Bradley Beal, especially if they could flip Kemba for some role players after that. Oof.
Right.
Because the way Jalen Brown looks right now, and you know how Tatum should be once he's healthy.
Those are two studs right there.
Oh, man, that's a good team. That's
With
a good
Bradley
team. Honestly,
Beal.
I'd like it. I like to see more teams more teams that are really good. I mean, I like when there's a lot of competition, but this would make the Celtics legit competition to win the whole thing. I would love to see what their odds would get boosted to if something like this happened.
All right, real quick. If on that lineup though, just real quick in your eyes, who would be the best player in that lineup? Just say it. Let's just say between Tatum, Brown, or Beal. Who'd be the best player on the court?
I think it's Jalen Brown. It's not even close.
Really?
I am very much so on the Tatum or on the Jalen Brown train. I can't lie. His defense and his on ball, his on balls even looked great this year. And that was a little bit of a knock he had in the past. He was better off ball, but you just can't teach his size and athleticism, his IQ. And now that he's scoring the ball like this, right now he's playing like the best scorer in the league behind Beal. Oh man, dude, that offense would be disgusting.
It would be nuts.
I think Brown would be the best. I think Tatum probably ends up the best in a year or two, and even probably maybe by the end of this year. If Tatum takes another step forward with the step that Brown has taken, and they get Beal, man, that is disgusting. That is disgusting.
I don't know. They're gonna be good for a long time. You would think.
They're gonna be.
You would think Bradley Beal would probably want to stay with that young nucleus who's already that good.
They're going to be even better than we thought they were going to be 2 years ago when these guys were in the Eastern Conference Finals as rookies.
Right, rookies in 1 year.
Man, I don't know. The Celtics hit the jackpot when Tatum gets a little healthier this year and he just starts hooping again.
Right.
I mean, they hit it anyway because Jalen Brown is playing like this. They're set, dude.
No doubt.
They're set.
They're
so set. Yeah, that's scary. I want that one to not happen.
All right,
but,
let's get to your third or your second one, I should say, our third for the episode.
Yeah. So the next one I came up with is between the Wizards and the Heat. This one cannot happen until at least February 18th because Goran Dragic signed a deal this year. So it will say failed when you try it, but it is possible. And also, it's the same thing as the Kyrie video. They'd have to unprotect the picks from the Clippers. They'd have to send the Clippers an asset, either with another deal or 3 way trade.
Right.
Because 23 first rounders protected, and it's the Clippers who have it, and yada, 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 all these other complicated things that I'm sure you don't care about.
Right.
Basically, the Heat can't trade picks, these first rounders, unless they get the protections removed from their 23 first. So let's just assume for this sake that they do. This trade is the Heat are receiving Ish Smith and Bradley Beal. And the Heat also have a $7 million trade exception from James Johnson. I did not know they have. And that expires later this year. So it'll be interesting to see if they use that.
Right.
But because, I mean, $7 million, you could probably get there. You probably find a good player.
Oh, no doubt
somewhere.
about it. For $7 million, you can buy that from a lot of teams. You can buy that from
Yeah.
a lot of teams.
So Ish Smith and Brad Beal go to the Heat. And then the Wizards get Goran Dragic, who's on a 1+1 with a team option for the second year for $18 million. Kelly Olynyk, 1 year. Kendrick Nunn, 1 year, and then he'd be a restricted free agent. And then Tyler Harrow. And he has 3 years left. So getting 2 young guys. Harrow obviously projects better than Nunn. You're getting some more. You're getting more shooting to stick around. Westbrook, which, I mean, that offense needs literally all the shooting help they can get. Because I see approximately 1 shooter on their team, and he's probably the best in the league. But
right, he's gonna get paid,
and he can create a little bit for you. None. Dragic, I mean, I don't know if they'd want to keep him the year after. It'd be like 18 mil again as a team option. So who knows? But so you're getting some young, talented guys. In comparison, I'd probably say they're more talented than the Celtics' young guys. And you're getting some first-round picks. 1 is going to be a pick swap, and 2 are just going to be the Heat's straight up. And they're later on. They're 25, 27, 26. Now, the reason I tried to give them late picks is, well, 1, because I couldn't give them early ones because the 23
right?
first.
They're basically capped for picks. If those that don't know, Miami has nothing.
Yeah, because that 23,
right?
It really puts a hold on them. Anything they want to do, they'd have to get the Clippers to remove the protections. But in these years, Jimmy Butler might not be. I mean, we haven't even seen him do anything this year alone. What has he been? Banged up, out with COVID.
Yeah, it's
I don't know if he has COVID, but it's health protocols.
Yeah, health protocols. He's been out for eight or 9 games as of this point, like just all due to health protocols.
And they still look good. Bam looks amazing this year, but
Duncan looks great too.
If Jimmy's not there, then these first round picks might not be too bad. They might be better than the first round picks that you'd get from that Celtics deal, just because the Celtics would probably be world beaters,
right?
If they got that lineup. So, I mean, that's something to consider. I'm sure the Wizards would have to compare and see how they'd feel. You're obviously getting less picks if they do this, and I mean, you're getting 2 firsts and a pick swap as opposed to 3 firsts and 2 seconds. So,
right,
something to consider, but. Basically, this is just the Heat getting their 3rd star. I think Brad fits perfectly with Jimmy. They still get to keep Duncan Robinson. They have Ish Smith for the rest of the year, probably playing point guard. That team's pretty good. That you don't have. It's not a major concern because you have your other ball handler for the playoffs and Brad and Jimmy and Bam even a little bit for you. So. Yeah, their offense probably be Ish Smith probably comes in and starts.
Yep.
Maybe not at first, but I see Ish Smith, Brad, Jimmy, Duncan, and Bam. That's a pretty good lineup. That's a scary lineup. It's definitely better than it was last year.
I mean, like you said, this is how I feel about it. Just looking from the draft pick standpoint, I just wanted to touch on that before you moved on. With like regards to that, you're right. I think the shelf life for the Heat isn't that long. We've kind of alluded to it before. Like, is Jimmy Butler really going to be your best player? Yeah, it's going to be Bam at one point. But is Tyler Hero then going to be your number 2? We both touched on this in the Kyrie episode about like what's our take on Hero, what's his ceiling and whatnot. It's like the Heat have to go out and buy their, or sign their players or trade for their stars, because the shelf life for them isn't always long. And like you said, Jimmy hasn't played, but he's not young. He's 31, right? I think he's like 30, 31 now. Like, and his body, the way he plays the game, he's not going to age well. So like, like those 26, 27s come back around. Who knows where Miami will be by then? They're always, of course, going to go big fish hunting, but like, there's no guaranteed.
Yeah, and you're going to have to pay Duncan Robinson after this year too. So
Right.
if they do anything, I mean, they'll have some money off the Bucks next year if they want to get rid of Iguodala and Avery Bradley after they do this, and so they'd be able to do it. But just going forward, you're not going to have a lot of room. If you do get Beal, you'll have to extend him again. Then Jimmy, he needs to get extended the same year as Beal, so maybe you wouldn't keep him.
Right.
Maybe you do. I mean, they definitely be good. They'd be really, really good for at least the next 5-6 years if they did this. So you just have to figure out the role players around them. It could just get a little scary, because if you end up having to pay
That's what I'm
Jimmy
saying. Like,
and Beal all this money
right.
with the later years of Bam's rookie extension, plus whatever you're going to have to pay Duncan Robinson,
Right.
the money will get a little tight, and they'll have to figure out what they're going to do at that point. But with that being said, would 90% of the teams in the NBA trade their core for a core of Jimmy, Beal, and
Bam?
Bam? Yeah, they would.
They
So
would.
definitely a good problem to have.
And from the Wizards side, I mean, you get a young stud in Tyler Hero who you can find kind of mold into being your possibly number one option. You know what I mean? You can finally let him kind of get that free reign, and you get just some more depth with Kendrick Nunn and Kelly Olynyk, and then of course with Goran, whether or not you want to bring him back at this point. But he would be a good backup, point guard over Ish Smith any day of the week. So.
Yeah, and those picks are right at the point where these picks might not be too hot, or they might not
That's
be
what I'm saying. Yep.
Or the Heat themselves might not be too hot. So.
Right.
Whereas that Celtics deal, they're going to be good at those years. There
Yep.
ain't no doubt about it. Barring major injuries, they're good.
Right.
So definitely something to consider. Do I think it happens? No. Do I think the Heat are wise to do it? Also, no. I think the Heat should just hang on to Kendrick Nunn. I think they should hang on to Dragic if possible. And Victor Oladipo couldn't have made it more clear that he wants to play in Miami. Excuse me. And if you can go out there with Harrow, Oladipo, Butler, Duncan Robinson. I don't know about Dragic because I don't know how the money would work. You probably can't retain him.
No.
Be him or Iguodala or somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe you could. Actually, yeah, I think you could. They could retain Dragic if they could. So I think they sit on it, they keep their picks, and you just get Oladipo, and then you run it back a little bit longer. You'll have the rights to go into the cap with or into the tax with Tyler Harrow and Duncan Robinson if you'd like to.
Right.
And then you just max out your books for 5 years and hope you can win something.
Right.
Sure, Pat Riley would not have an issue with that.
No, as long as he gets the
And
right
hang on to a
vetament.
couple of picks, and the Heat love their picks.
Right.
So
Right. As long as he can get a couple vets at the minimum, I'm sure he'll be just fine with that. With that core still intact.
he always does.
Right.
So
All right, moving on to the fourth, the last
Yep.
one of the night. I think we got another team out west.
yeah, which one?
Actually, this is
Which
our
one
first team out west. I think New Orleans.
Pelicans. Okay. So I'll read this one for you. You're sending Bradley Beal and Troy Brown Jr.
Yes.
to Washington and
No, to New Orleans.
to New Orleans. Wow. Okay. And it's that combo that we just saw the report for yesterday with JJ and Lonzo.
Yeah.
JJ, Lonzo, Josh Hart. You're sending a Milwaukee first in 25. You're sending the Pelicans first this year and the Pelicans first in 23. And Washington gets their own second rounder back this year.
Right. I figured that was a benefit to them.
Yeah, they welcome that. They would welcome the 33rd pick back with open arms, I assume. So, okay, what were you thinking with this one?
So I was trying to think of a nice, somewhat solid young core, and I was also looking at the years left on deals, and we've already alluded to a little bit about Bradley Beal having a 2+1. Would he want to resign in New Orleans after these 2 years, yada yada? Like, not sure. Of course, he would like to see how it goes playing next to Zion and Steven Adams and Brandon Ingram. But looking at the pick situation, I was like, well, if Washington doesn't want to extend one of these three or all three of them, like, how do you move forward? And these picks, I think they might not be the greatest, but they might not be bad still. New Orleans has been at times wishy-washy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that New Orleans first this year could be huge.
Right. It could be a game changer.
Top 6 pick.
Right.
Which would, I mean, hitting on your early picks in a rebuild is so important. So important for a team. It can literally speed your rebuild up 2-3 years. So that could be absolutely huge for them.
Right.
That. And in that Washington, their own pick back this year could be a good player. You can get good players 33rd.
That pick is basically a first round pick. It'll probably be like 31, 32, 33. It's going to be one of those. The way that it looks like their team's going, especially if they trade Bradley Beal away. We know they're looking for tank commanders. They will be a tank commanding team at that point.
Oh man, this is another situation where it's Lonzo paired with Russ.
Right. And
man, that's horrible. And I think Lonzo's his best when he can just play point and facilitate. And it doesn't seem like they're doing that with him right now in New Orleans. So he's struggling this year.
Yeah, it's been a little different.
Don't know how you do that with Russ. Like, do you just? I don't know. It's a headache. He's $40 million. You just sit him on the side. Like, is that what they got to do to take a shot at Lonzo? Do they extend Lonzo?
Maybe they take.
Same thing with Hart.
Maybe they take.
I like
Russ.
taking a flyer on Hart and just seeing what he can give you for the next couple of years, and then Redick's probably gone at the end of the year.
Right.
So that's expiring $13 million, give you a little more space. So.
I was thinking maybe you take Russ and you take one of these picks you're taking in and flip him for something. You know, maybe find a way to get some more younger assets if you possibly can. But like we know, it's going to be hard to flip Russ. He's just going to be in Washington for a while.
It is tough.
Yeah, he's going to be there for a while. Probably will live out his contract there. We'll see. But at least you get a young point guard in Lonzo who doesn't need the ball in his hands. You're right. It would take some getting used to. We know Eric Bledsoe isn't the greatest shooter like Russ, but they've found ways to kind of coexist so far on the court together. But yeah, you're just basically getting Josh Hart to replace Troy Brown Jr. and expiring, he'll be restricted as well. So you've got a couple decisions if you're Washington to make. But you get off of Bradley Beal, although he's an amazing talent, you just know you're not going anywhere with it. You could see how J.J. Redick does in the few games he'll play. Excuse me, not few games. I'd say few months, depending on when the trade is made. But
I'm have some shooting. That's
right,
for sure.
Right, and I'm sure they'll find ways to either.
Redick out there at the same time.
I'm sure they'll either find a way to buy him out, or even if he plays the whole season, the rest of the season there, he'll move on to another contender for a low contract. So at this point for New Orleans, we were just looking at picks. How do you get the best picks? And those picks might not be the greatest picks when their time comes, you know? So that's good for Washington's sake.
Yeah. I mean, if the Pelicans wanted to get out of the Steven Adams experiment, maybe they could send him over too. Maybe they send over Adams and Bledsoe and take back Russ. I don't think anyone wants that headache. We're getting a little out of hand with that.
Right, because then we're getting Russ and
I
Bledsoe
mean,
on the same team together, and I don't know if anybody in New Orleans wants that.
realistically, if they do want to get off the Adams and get out of that whatever that they're calling it down there, I'll call it an experiment. Shout out to NARP, but
Shout out to Nart.
maybe they could somehow throw him in here and maybe take off a Redick or something like that and make the money work that way. Add in another guy like maybe an Ish Smith for the Wizards, and because the Wizards do need a center, and I don't know what they're going to do with O'Brien next year, how he'll even play next year. So
Right.
I think Steven Adams could be an outstanding 2021 tank commander. Steven Adams and
you know how comfortable he is? Yeah, I say, you know how comfortable he is with Russ. They're boys.
fighting hard for that number 1 pick. Washington is in good hands if they do something like that. They're in good hands if they do something like this anyway, because that's ultimately it's going to be what they're trying to do. Obviously, tanking isn't as effective anymore, and now that they changed the salary odds or the lottery.
Yeah, the lottery. Yep.
They'd be low, and that would be a deal that could net them some picks. So
Right.
I mean, the Pelicans don't want to do that. I think the Pelicans need some more role players, personally. I think they need role players that can actually play, can actually shoot, can actually defend.
Right.
And they really don't have any of those right now. And honestly, I'd be afraid that getting Bradley Beal would just, I mean, you'd have Ingram, you'd have Beal, and you'd have Zion, and that is a hell of a core of 3. But what would Beal want to re-sign in 2 years?
That's what
3
I'm
years?
saying, and that's why those picks look even better for Washington if that's the case. But you at least get a chance to take a look at it for New Orleans' side. And like that core would be nice. I mean, Bradley Beal is only 27. He's still got.
They just don't have money to add anyone to incentivize Beal to stay, because Bledsoe and Adams are making 43 something mil a year the next 3 years.
Right.
So
Well, I'm sure you find ways to flip those
that
guys.
doesn't include Bradley's deal. Obviously, Zion's on his rookie still, so you need to strike while you can. And I don't know exactly how the contracts lay out. Maybe the last season where you can renounce Bledsoe and you can renounce Adams, and then you can sign somebody before you extend Zion, so you can go into the salary, or so you can go to the tax rather.
Right.
I don't know. I just don't think they're ready yet. I think they have a little bit more of moving around that roster they need to do before they go and do that. I think if they can get rid of Bledsoe and get rid of
I'd find ways to flip. Find ways to flip Bledsoe. Find ways to flip Adams. That's what you would do for New Orleans' case.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Or even flip Bledsoe and then flip Redick and Lonzo for some role players. Maybe a couple of picks, get you some role players, and then you still have this plethora of picks.
Right.
And I mean, maybe if you hang on to Bledsoe or Adams, and you somehow get a good role player from Lonzo and Redick and a pick or something like that, then you can use Bledsoe to send to Washington or something like that, or Adams to Washington to match the salary for Beal maybe next year. Who knows?
Right.
But I think I can't hate it if they just get the talent and figure it out later. But I don't think it'd be wise.
Yeah, I mean, this one was a little tough too, just to think of what would Washington want back in return. I'm sure they'd want one of the young guys. If they don't want Lonzo, they'll take Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I know a lot of teams.
Lewis.
Yeah, they got Kyra Lewis as well. But I just figured Lonzo with it being I'm sure there's a team out there that'd probably give up a first. There's got to be a team out there, in my eyes, that would give up a first for Lonzo. So for him to be involved in this deal makes me think, all right, this is a team trading for a lottery pick. He was the number 2 pick in the draft. There's probably some teams that think highly of him. If Markelle Fultz got the contract he did, I think Lonzo's looking at something similar, if not better. So I'm sure there's some teams out there interested, no doubt.
Pelicans, man. I just don't know what they do. I don't know what they're doing with their team right now, dude. They're very disappointing this year.
Yeah, I thought we thought they were going to even be nice last year, and it was, they injury-riddled. Zion didn't play a lot of games, but even with Zion on the court, his defense is, ugh, that's something he needs to
No.
work on.
He doesn't look as explosive. He doesn't look like he's taking over games like he used to. I mean, there's times where he gets the ball in the low post and it's just a bucket. He's just too strong. Everyone's too little, but like there's something about them. It just doesn't look right. I don't know if Stan Van Gundy was the right coach for them or not. I don't know. They should have added shooting, but they traded for Adams, and that was weird. I just don't know what they're doing. Whoever's in charge down there, bless your soul.
Right.
You either have incredibly tough decisions to make that you honestly put on yourself. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a mess. I would not want to be in charge there right now because I'd be absolutely petrified that Ingram's going to walk in a couple of years after his extension or demand out like AD did before and like Chris Paul did before him.
And like many players are continuing to follow down that trend with. So, yeah, it's nuts. But we've got 4 more trades coming at them tomorrow. Correct. Thanks for tuning in to the NARP experiment. Please hit a like and subscribe on your way out. We'll see you next game.
Home run like Sammy Sosa. 2 clutch last period. Get ready, set, go. This a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience. This a NARP experience. This a NARP experience. This a NARP experience.